Good evening and welcome to Bharati News special segment Sunday Special, where every weekend we make your Sunday much more entertaining and special. My name is Vansh Pradhavan and today we talk about a man who changed the way we look after wealth, risk and life itself. A man who built an empire worth hundreds of billions of dollars yet never moved out of the house he bought in 1958 for just $31,500. A man who quietly reshaped capitalism while sipping cherry coke, reading newspapers and living in the heart of every American. Yes, today's story is about Warren Edward Buffett, the legendary investor, philosopher of finance and the man the world reverently calls the Oracle of Omaha. Just this May, at the age of 94, Buffett formally announced his retirement from the day-to-day operations of Berkshire Hathaway, bringing to a close an era that spanned more than 6 decades. As he stepped back, it wasn't with a dramatic exit or a grand farewell, but with the same humility he's always had. It's time, he said, I've done my part. And so today, we walk through the unforgettable story of Warren Buffett, not just the tycoon, but a teacher. Not just a billionaire, but a man who taught the world how to think. Let's begin where every great story begins, childhood. Warren Buffett was born on August 30th, 1930, right in the heart of America, Omaha, Nebraska. Born during the Great Depression, Warren was raised in a home that valued thrift, resilience and independence. His father, Howard Buffett, was a stockbroker and later a U.S. congressman, while his mother, Leila, was a homemaker who raised Warren and his 2 sisters with discipline and curiosity. From the very beginning, Warren showed signs of unusual intelligence and even more unusual interest in money. At the tender age of 6, he bought a 6-pack of Coca-Cola bottles for 25 cents and sold them individually for a nickel each, making a neat profit. By age 11, he was buying stocks. His first ever purchase, 3 shares of City Service Preferred at $38 each. When it dipped at $27, he panicked, but soon after, when it rebounded to $40, he sold, only to watch it climb above $200 later. That moment taught him what would become a golden rule in investing. Don't let emotions drive decisions. Patience pays. But Warren wasn't just playing with stocks. He filed his first tax return at age 14, listing his bicycle and watch as a business expense for his paper route. At 15, he bought a 40-acre farm in Nebraska with his own savings and rented it out. This wasn't just a youthful ambition, it was his instinct. As Warren grew, so did his hunger for knowledge. He read every book on investing he could find in the Omaha Public Library, many more than once. After a brief stint at Wharton, he transferred to the University of Nebraska and then purchased a graduate degree at Columbia Business School. After a brief stint at Wharton, he transferred to the University of Nebraska and then pursued a graduate degree at Columbia Business School. Why Columbia, you may ask? One reason: Benjamin Graham. Graham was the father of value investing and the author of The Intelligent Investor, a book Warren still calls the best investment book he has ever read. Under Graham's mentorship, Buffett learned the difference between price and value, a lesson he would carry for the rest of his life. Price is what you pay, value is what you get. That became his mantra. Buffett worked briefly under Graham at his firm but was eventually turned down for a permanent position.
बस अभी 12th खत्म हुई थी और अब आधे से ज्यादा टाइम ये सोचकर निकाल देते हो कि which career to choose. Well, in that case, I got you covered. ये वीडियो एंड तक देखना, क्या पता I will just make up your mind. You must have thought of कोई बस ऐसा कोर्स मिल जाए जहाँ अनलिमिटेड जॉब ऑप्शन हो, क्योंकि मैं भी यही सोचती थी, जैसे कि जर्नलिस्ट, न्यूज एंकर, रेडियो जॉकी, स्क्रीन राइटर, वीडियो एडिटर, इवेंट मैनेजर, ग्राफिक डिजाइनर, सिनेमैट, फोटोग्राफर, डायरेक्टर, पब्लिक रिलेशन ऑफिसर, एंटरप्रेन्योर। इनफैक्ट इन सबसे भी ज्यादा जॉब ऑप्शंस चाहिए। तो जस्ट चूज BAJMC एज योर करियर। BAJMC is not just about theory but plenty of practical knowledge too. BAJMC as a course आपको provide करता है world की better understanding, meeting और working with people of top notch industry. और सिर्फ यही नहीं, BAJMC as a course आपको help करता है to grow personally and professionally too. So what are you waiting for? Choose BAJMC क्योंकि इधर आपको मिलेंगी endless possibilities.
Not because he wasn't smart, but because Graham's company didn't hire non-Jews at the time. Warren took the rejection in stride and returned to Omaha. In hindsight, it was a blessing. There, with just $100 of his own money and small investments from friends and family, he started his own investment partnership in 1956. That partnership, small, cautious, and local, would one day evolve into a global empire. The turning point came in 1962 when Buffett began buying shares of a falling textile mill called Berkshire Hathaway. Initially, it was meant to be a classic value play: buy cheap, sell high. But an emotional decision after a dispute with Berkshire's management led Buffett to buy controlling interest and take over the company. He later admitted it was one of the worst investments, but instead of cutting losses, he transformed Berkshire Hathaway into a holding company, a vehicle to invest in much more better businesses. From that mistake, he built a machine. Berkshire went on to acquire insurance firms like Geico, consumer giants like See's Candies and Dairy Queen, and eventually stakes in Coca-Cola, Apple, American Express, and dozens of others. Buffett's style was not to micromanage, but to trust. He looked for businesses with strong fundamentals, honest leadership, and long-term potential, not short-term hype. In a world addicted to quarterly results, Buffett reminded us that the stock market is a voting machine in the short term and a weighing machine in the long term. He didn't chase trends, he didn't time the market. He invested like someone planting an orchard, patiently, thoughtfully, and with the future in mind. But beyond the numbers, what made Warren Buffett stand apart was how he lived. Despite his billions, he never bought a private jet for decades, even jokingly naming the one he finally did buy as the indefensible. He lived in the same simple Omaha home since 1958. He never hired a personal chef. He still swung by McDonald's for breakfast and judged what to order based on how well the stock market opened that morning. His routine was so ordinary that when he met with tech CEOs and royalties, he often surprised them by arriving alone. No entourage, no assistant, nobody else. That simplicity wasn't performative, it was genuine. Buffett believed that money amplifies who you are already, and he proved it. In 2006, Buffett announced that he would donate 99% of his wealth to philanthropy, mostly through the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. He called it returning society's favor. He also co-founded the Giving Pledge, encouraging billionaires around the world to do the same. Today, over 240 of the world's richest individuals and families have signed that pledge. To date, Warren Buffett has donated over $50 billion, making him the most generous person in modern history. And now, in 2025, Warren Buffett has officially stepped back. At the latest Berkshire Hathaway annual meeting, often called Woodstock for capitalists, Buffett calmly announced his transition. "The baton is in the right hands," he said, referring to Greg Abel, the 62-year-old Canadian businessman and vice chairman of the Berkshire's non-insurance operations. Abel had long been viewed as Buffett's natural successor. He's known for his integrity, operational discipline, and ability to understand diverse businesses, just like Buffett himself. Buffett, now chairman of Emeritus, will still offer advice, but the era of Warren at the helm is over. But his influence, that's eternal. He's left behind not just a company, but a philosophy, one taught in classrooms, quoted in boardrooms, and practiced by investors all around the world. Warren Buffett's life is proof that the greatest wealth isn't built by luck or lightning, it's built slowly, with wisdom, discipline, and a deep understanding of human behavior. He once said, "I always knew I was going to be rich. I don't think I ever doubted it for a minute." But more importantly, he never let wealth define who he is truly. He taught us that success doesn't have to look like a mansion or a private island. Sometimes it looks like an old man in a sweater, reading 5 newspapers a day, drinking cherry coke, and smiling because he knows he stayed true to himself. And that is Warren Buffett. As we close this chapter of Sunday Special, we do so with a deep gratitude for a man who changed the way we invest, live, and think. Warren Buffett may have retired, but the principles he stood for, patience, integrity, humility, and generosity, will keep echoing for generations. So the next time you're faced with a big decision, financial or otherwise, maybe ask yourself, what would Warren do in this situation? And that's all for today. Join us next Sunday as we uncover another life, another journey, another story that shaped our world. Until then, live simply, think long term, and enjoy what you have today. Thank you.
भारती न्यूज़, सीधा, सटीक और निष्पक्ष।